Hello students, how are you today? Christmas is almost here. I've got another little Christmas story to read to you today, one that I especially like. And I have a granddog, my grandchildren's dog, who also liked this book a lot. Can you tell how he liked it? He chewed off the top corner, but it didn't ruin the story. So let's get into Mr. Willowby's Christmas Tree by Robert Barry. This story first came out about 1960, and this particular version of the story was in the year 2000. So this is an old story, but it's a great one. It's about a very rich man whose name is Mr. Willowby. He lived in a very large house, which we would call a mansion. He had a butler. A butler is a man who sort of runs the house for him. And he also had maids, upstairs maids and downstairs maids. These are ladies who help to keep the house clean and orderly. Alrighty, so it's Christmas time at Mr. Willowby's house. Let's see what happened. Mr. Willowby's Christmas Tree by Robert Barry. Mr. Willowby's Christmas tree came by special delivery. Full and fresh and glistening green, the biggest tree he had ever seen. As you can tell, we got some rhyming in this story. And look at this big tree being brought to Mr. Willowby's mansion on the back of a truck. So we know it's quite a large tree. He dashed downstairs to open the door. This was the moment he'd waited for. A magnificent tree! Splendid! He cried. Please, sir, won't you carry it right inside? I think it might look best this year right in the parlor corner here. The parlor is like the living room or the sitting room. But once the tree stood in its place, Mr. Willowby made a terrible face. The tree touched the ceiling, then bent like a bow. Oh, good heavens, he gasped. Something must go. You see how the tree is bent at the ceiling? It's too big. Baxter, the butler, was called on in haste to chop off the top, though it seemed quite a waste. That's great, Mr. Willowby cried with glee. Now we can start to trim my tree. And what's tree trimming? It's decorating the tree. When the trimming was well underway, the top was placed on a silver tray. Baxter said, I know just who'd be delighted with this Christmas tree. So it was presented to Miss Adelaide, Mr. Willowby's upstairs maid. Won't this tree be a pretty sight when I have trimmed it later tonight? But the top, oh dear, I'm so afraid will have to be cut, sighed Miss Adelaide. So what was the problem? It was just like it was in the other room of Mr. Willowby's house. It's too big for the place she put it. And so with scissors sharp and long, she snipped off the top while she hummed a song. The top was set aside the very next day in back of the house to be thrown away. That little treetop caught the eye of Tim, the gardener, passing by. He certainly was not about to see that little tree thrown out. He hurried home straight away to see what Mrs. Tim would say. Fa la la, surprise, surprise! His wife could not believe her eyes. But our house, she said, is so snug and small, I do not believe we need it all. And before Tim had a chance to shout, she cut off the top and threw it out. Barnaby Bear was padding by. It almost hit him in the eye. Now, who would throw a tree away so very close to Christmas Day? I'll take it home, that's what I'll do. Look, Mama Bear, I've a present for you. Isn't it a pretty tree? Yawned Barnaby, quite drowsily. But Little Bear, standing off far, cried out, That tree won't hold a star. Why not? Because it's too big for the place they put it. Barnaby said, Let's cut a hunk off the bottom here at the trunk. But Mama Bear just shook her head and sliced the treetop off instead. Jolly by golly, Barnaby said with a kick. Mama, that surely is just the right trick. Let's trim it with bells and honey rings, some berries and tinsel, and popcorn on strings. Mama said, Trim it just as you like. I've got to tidy up for the night. This top we won't need anymore. I'll just put it outside the door. Later on that frosty night, Frisky Fox came into sight. He spied the treetop, rubbed his chin, opened his sack, and stuffed the top in. He scampered home and jumped his gate. This Christmas present just couldn't wait. It's even better than mincemeat pie, said Mrs. Fox with a happy sigh. Then the foxes saw that their Christmas prize was just a wee bit oversized. It's bent. There, my dears, don't you worry. I'll fix this top now in a hurry. What did she do? She snipped off the top. Benjamin Rabbit found it then just outside the fox's den. It seems, he thought, most certainly Santa left that for my family. Look, he cried, see the tree I found? With that he called his family round. Then there was a merrymaking, rollicking, frolicking, carrot-shaking celebration around the tree. All were as happy as rabbits can be. Benjamin Rabbit, with his own hand, sliced a carrot and made a stand. Now, let's see how this will look in our little chimney nook. But right away, the children cried, Look, it's leaning off to one side. It's too tall, that's all, said Mrs. Rabbit. And as though it were a summer carrot, she gave it a chop and threw away the top. Then Mistletoe Mouse just happened to see that tiny tip of a Christmas tree. He pulled it through the snow and ice, up some stairs. He fell down twice. At last he reached his cozy house. "It's just the right size," said Mrs. Mouse. Then at the top, if you please, they put a star made out of cheese. Oh, wasn't it grand to have a tree exactly like Mr. Willowby? Do you see where the top of the tree ended? In the little mouse house, the mouse hole at the bottom of Mr. Willowby's tree. And that's Mr. Willowby having a nice nap. The end. Okay, so Mr. Willowby's Christmas tree. And there is a lesson in this story. Did you figure it out? You know, we have a lot of things that we don't always need. But there are many people out there who don't have what we have. So sometimes, if it's in good shape, like clothes that don't fit you anymore, encourage mom and dad to help you take that to a place that likes to get old things to share with other people, like Salvation Army. That's a place where people can take furniture and clothes and various things that other people might find useful for their houses that they can't afford to have. So, this tree went a long way, didn't it? It went a long way and made a lot of people happy. Okay, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. And remember Mr. Willowby's tree and what happened to it. All righty? Y'all have a great day. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.